on in this one. Last night they let a 4-1 lead get away in the 8th inning. And again, when you've lost 18 out of 20 against one team, that starts playing on your psyche, even though there are several new players on both teams.
Now Mark McLemore. McLemore, switch hitter, is playing second base tonight for the Texas Rangers. And you know he's capable of playing everywhere. They have Nixon picked off. The throw to second base from Tippy Martinez. Artino Martinez is in time with Soho going over to take the throw.
Otis tried to get a running start on Bennis, but I think he started too soon. Andy recognized it. Wasn't a real pretty play anywhere. Otis tries to get that running start. Martinez has trouble getting the ball out of his glove as Bennis almost threw it down the right field line, and I wasn't too sure if Otis maybe got in before Soho's tag, but the throw beat him, so he was called out.
Now the pitch to McLemore misses, ball one. So Nixon picked off. That's the 4th time this year he's been picked off. Strike on the corner. It's 1-1. So the Rangers, after getting the leadoff single, lose the base runner. Technically a caught stealing.
That would be 20 for Otis, so he leads the American League in that category as well.
Bennis comes back to get the jump on McLemore. A ball and 2 strikes. We're in the first. We've just started. And a pop foul that's going to head out of play. Here's the breakdown in this season series, Dave. You can see the Mariners continue to dominate the Rangers.
Well, this has been the little house of horrors for Texas. They don't play very well in here. They opened last year losing 4 straight.
Too high. The count stands at 2-2. Foul out of play.
Gave you a little erroneous information. I was looking down at some notes when I was describing Bennis. He really doesn't throw a curve. It's a slider. And then he has the off-speed pitch. Fastball has always been his big pitch ever since he was the #1 draft choice in the nation back in 1988 by the Padres out of Evansville University.
He was acquired at the end of July from San Diego. And there's strike 3 on McLemore. First strikeout for Bennis, and the Seattle crowd is already in this game.
Talking to some of the writers up here in Seattle, they said even though the crowds have not been huge the last couple of nights, as you see Bennis grab a corner, this is really a noisy place, and some of them said it brought back memories of the '87 and '91 World Series up at the Hubert Humphrey Metrodome. A dome stadium is going to keep a lot of noise inside.
Will Clark takes the first pitch for a ball. Clark hitting .294 overall. He is one of the few Texas hitters to have put together any significant number of at-bats against Bennis with a strike. And as you know, that comes from their National League experience. Hitting lifetime just .225 against Bennis. Included in that .225 would be a home run and 8 strikeouts.
Bennis just threw his first changeup of the night. And we mentioned early on that Andy has had some struggles, over a 7 ERA in the first 2 innings, but Nixon helped him out by getting caught off first base.
He's in to Clark, and the count is 3-1. Represents the early inning struggles of Bennis this year. And a foul ball headed out of play, so the count goes to 3-2. Will Clark in the 3rd spot for the Texas Rangers, batting with the bases empty and 2 outs.
Are these fans into it? First inning and 2 outs, and they're cheering.
And Bennis loses him. The pitch down.
Well, it's been a long while in Seattle, this being the 19th year of the franchise, that they've really ever had anything to cheer about in the month of September. And There's been a loyal group of fans that have come out and supported this team. Some people jumping on the bandwagon, but whatever it is, it's going to be a noisy place tonight.
And they're starting to get a significant walk-up at the gate. We're looking at something in the neighborhood of 12 to 15,000 walk-up. Juan Gonzalez. The pitch to him misses, ball one.
It'll be interesting to see if they ever match their all-time walk-up. When Ken Griffey Jr. had hit home runs in 8 successive games and was going for the Major League record 9th, they had a 30,000 walk-up for that particular game.
Gonzalez lays off. The count is 2-0. The Mariners starting play a half game up in the wild card hunt. Venice on the 9th of September defeated Kansas City 6-2, and that moved Seattle into the top spot in the wild card race. He's pitching tonight with a chance to gain a share of first place in the division. Gonzalez sends it back to right. Buhner in line with this one. Takes care of it to retire the side. We're headed into the bottom of the first from Seattle. Texas nothing. Seattle coming into hit. Rangers did not score in the top of the first. We go to the Mariner half the inning, and here is Lou Pinella's starting lineup tonight. Vince Coleman leading off, followed by Cora, and then Griffey Jr. Edgar Martinez, the DH, followed by Tino Martinez and Jay Buhner, with Blauer, Soho, and Wilson rounding out the Seattle lineup.
34-year-old Bob Tewksbury first start in 8 days after sustaining a hamstring injury covering first base. He also missed some time with a stress fracture to his ribs. If he follows form, those numbers tell you he'll give up a lot of hits and hardly walk anybody. Lowest walk ratio in the American League, 1.4 per 9 innings.
And he doesn't throw many pitches. Here's Vince Coleman. And the first pitch, he tried to check but made contact for a foul ball. 1 strike to count to Coleman. Veteran outfielder. He's moved into left field in the leadoff spot. He has given the Mariners another dimension to their club. Mariners, when you think of speed, traditionally they have not sported that kind of club. But when Griffey was out of the lineup, Lou Piniella forced the issue a lot more. And they're 4th in the league in stolen bases.
Well, Piniella talked to his ball club and said, with Junior out, we're going to have to manufacture some runs. Alex Diaz played quite a bit of center field. They only got 1 home run out of center field in those 73 games he missed. But the Mariners are still scoring a lot of runs this year.
And a shot by Pagliarulo and up the left field line. Greer with a pickup. Coleman's going to give it a shot. And the throw is not in time. A 2-base hit for Vince Coleman to start the Seattle first.
Hey, if Vince has slowed down, then it certainly wasn't evident there. He's been playing with the bruised hips, and I think he re-injured a little bit on the slide. He just takes the fastball the other way, slaps it past Pagliarulo. Greer does a great job of getting over and getting set up, but just raw speed by Coleman allows him to get a double. Rusty Greer played it very well and threw a strike, but Coleman too fast.
Coleman's hitting close to 400 now this last week after going through a 2 for 21 skid. A leadoff double. And here's Joey Cora.
You got to believe the Mariners might lay down a bunt or two to test the hamstring of Tewksbury tonight.
And Cora showing the bunt, takes ball 1.
Punts it up the first base side. You're going to make Tewksbury perhaps cover first base and get a good read on how strong the hamstring is. That's how he hurt it in Toronto, covering first base.
Ground ball right side. The pickup by McLemore. So Cora advances Coleman over to third. And Ken Griffey Jr. will bat with a man at third and 1 out. Griffey hitting .250 overall. But he delivered last night in the 11th inning with a base hit. And even though his numbers have not been particularly imposing since he is back, and we must say that he is not 100%. He's still closer to 70% than the old Ken Griffey Jr. There's a foul ball, strike one, but the saying is 70% of Ken Griffey Jr. is better than 100% of almost anybody else.
Well, he's not swinging the bat with as much strength as he did before, but he's still that brilliant presence in center field. And he also forces managers to make a lot of moves if he weren't in there. But he hit the home run last night to get the Mariners back in the game. Then had the game-winning hit. And he's been swinging the bat pretty well the last week.
One strike count on Griffey Jr. 1-1. The Mariners will point to a number of spots in the season, especially if they go on to win the division or finish a game up. But they talk a lot about that win over New York. There's a fly ball down the right side that's going to wind up foul and out of play. They beat the Yankees on the 24th of August. They were down 7-6, and with 2 outs, Ken Griffey Jr. belted a home run to give them a win, and that started a 4-game sweep. And the Mariners point back to that date, the 24th of August, as perhaps the big date in this season so far. Jr. fouls this one out of play.
Well, they have played great baseball. Last 43 games, 27-16. I believe only the Indians in the American League are better than that during this span. And meanwhile, Texas, since the All-Star break, has played 6 games under 500. The Rangers were in the race very much. The Rangers have been extremely streaky this year. A lot of losing streaks. 10 in a row. They've lost 10 or 12. Conversely, they've put together some pretty good winning streaks.
Upstairs. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Some imposing career numbers for Griffey against the Rangers. 21 home runs, including the one last night. That's more home runs against the Rangers than any other team for Griffey. He waited on that pitch and bounced it foul.
Tewksbury took a lot off that changeup. One thing in this situation, Bob Tewksbury is not a strikeout pitcher. The Rangers are conceding a run on the infield. Only if a ball were hit on one hop to Pagliarulo at third, he could come home. But in this situation, the odds favor Griffey because Tewksbury does not record a lot of strikeouts.
And a fly ball hit deep to right, all the way back, and that ball is gone. Ken Griffey Jr. gives Seattle a 2-0 lead here in the first. That's his 14th home run of the year.
Probably 2 weeks ago, Ken Griffey would not have been able to hit that pitch out of the ballpark, but the right arm is getting stronger. Tewksbury tried to come in on him, and he whistled a bullet out of there.
The fans have something to cheer about early. Edgar Martinez, the leading hitter in the American League, takes a strike.
Well, big players come up big at crunch time, and Junior's starting to tune up.
Martinez lines it into left. That's going to fall in for a base hit. Greer makes the stop. So Edgar Martinez follows the Griffey home run with a line single into left.
Tewksbury tries to come in and up, and Junior throws some top hand on it. All Tuttle could do was hope it would carry him off the scoreboard.
So the Mariners lead on Griffey's clout. Here's Tino Martinez, who's having a career year. Career highs in home runs. 5th in the American League with 102 runs batted in. Pitch to him as a strike.
I think you just hit on a key word. When Junior was out, Edgar Martinez, Tino Martinez, Jay Buhner, and Mike Blowers are having their best years ever. They picked up the slack.
That's a strike on the outside corner. And Lee Elia, the hitting instructor on this club, was saying in a way, you never want to lose a Ken Griffey Jr., but he says these fellas stepped up, and it made the team better when Griffey went out. And now that Griffey's back, these fellas know what they can do.
I'll tell you what, Seattle, the Mariners, may be the one team that nobody wants to play in postseason. There's a lot of teams hoping the Mariners don't get in. With Randy Johnson, if he's rested, getting 2 starts in that first round of the playoffs and 5 hitters hot, they could be trouble.
Chop to Pagliarulo at third, out at second, and safe at first. Pagliarulo to McLemore to get the 4th on Edgar Martinez, with Tino Martinez reaching safely. Dave, you couple the offense with Randy Johnson, and then the way Norm Charlton is closing in the bullpen, any team could have its hands full against Seattle.
Well, that's going to be the interesting thing about the wild card. I mean, you can look at teams that have already clinched. I mean, no doubt Cleveland's had a brilliant year, but sometimes if you have to go to the wire and have momentum, that might carry over in a short series.
Now Jay Buhner. It's ball 1. Buhner with 35 home runs, and he is 3rd in the league in runs batted in. Ground ball. Pagliarulo has it skip off his glove, and everybody's going to be safe. For a moment, third base was left vacant, and Benji Gill, the shortstop, headed over to make sure there was no attempt at an advance. Sharply hit ball by Buhner. There'll be a base hit.
Well, Pagliarulo, pretty good range. Buhner has been hot. He has 8 home runs in his last 14 games. That ball's got overspin and just kind of got into Pagliarulo's glove and jumped out. Called too hot to handle. He is given a base hit.
A 2-run first so far for Seattle. The Mariners have men at first and second with 2 outs, and Mike Blowers. 92 runs batted in for Blowers.
Well, the Mariners have 3 with 100. Both Martinez and Buhner, and none of the 3 had ever had 100 RBIs before.
Bounce. Pagliarulo has trouble and cannot make the play. Blowers hitting a bouncer on the left side. Bases are loaded.
Well, they've been picking on Mike. The last 3 balls have been hit to him, all at various speeds and hops. I think he was a little concerned with Tino Martinez coming down, being distracted a bit between short and third. He decides he's got to come, and you see Tino, and maybe just out of the corner of his eye, Pagliarulo might have seen him. Right there. I mean, Tino avoids him. No problem there as far as any rule violation, but it might have distracted Pagliarulo just a little bit.
So an error, the 6th of the year, charged to Pagliarulo, and the Mariners load the bases. Dick Bosman, the pitching coach for the Rangers, out talking with Tewksbury.
Well, we're going to take a look at the defense that plays behind Tewksbury tonight, and it is a greatly improved defense despite that play by Pagliarulo there. Rusty Greer, he saved the perfect game for Kenny Rogers last year. Otis Nixon, a big upgrade. Mickey Tettleton, not a great outfielder. Pagliarulo, Benji Gill has solidified short. Mark McLemore has played great at second. Will Clark's a good defensive player, and Pudge is a Gold Glove winner. Last year, the Rangers had the 27th ranked team defense in the major leagues. This year, they are 6th in the American League.
Luis Sojo. The first pitch to him is too low, ball 1. And as fate would have it, Sojo with 1 grand slam. That came last year in May of '94 against the Texas Rangers. He has them loaded now.
Well, the Royals battle back. They're trying to keep alive in that wild card. The Twins had a 4-1 lead in that one.
A 2-ball, no strike count. Sojo with a base hit into center. Martinez scores. Buhner will score. Soho driving home 2, and the Mariners take a 4-0 lead in the first.
Why should you use Miro? When you draw on a whiteboard, no one sees it. With Miro, you plan together in real time from literally everywhere. It's not just a board, it's an
downtown Denver. A nice night for baseball so far. The clouds are coming in, but no sun.
Thank you very much, John. And we have a 0-0 ball game just underway out here in San Diego, California, Jack Murphy Stadium. It's the Houston Astros going against the San Diego Padres. I'm Steve Physiak along with Dave Campbell tonight, and Eric Yelding, who reached on an error that was charged to the second baseman Roberto Alomar, but really he was hustling to get in position to field a bunt. And now we understand that they have changed the error and they have given it to the pitcher, Dennis Rasmussen. But when they first came out with the report, they called it an Alomar. What happened was Yelding bunted back to the pitcher, who made the play. Jack Clark really should have covered first base. Alomar came over from second in a hustle play, and they say the throw pulled his foot off the bag. So now it's 1 ball, 2 strikes, the count to Billy Doran, and Yelding is going. He has 19 stolen bases this year. Make it 20. Balls into center field, and Eric Yelding easily into third base.
Stolen base, E2 on the field.
Well, San Diego does not start the game very well defensively.
A matter right there of Yelding stealing the base on Dennis Rasmussen. He had a big jump. Benito Santiago, who is a terrific throwing catcher, and you see him throwing from the knees. Benito's won the Golden Glove twice in this league, but he's also led the league in errors the last 3 years, and this is his 8th error so far early in 1990. So Santiago is either real great or sometimes airmails that ball into center field, and the Astros have a man at third with nobody out here in the first.
The count 2 balls and 2 strikes to Billy Doran. Really looked like Alomar needed to get down. The ball was skipping towards him and went through his legs. Yelding at third base, tremendous speed. The ball's in the dirt. Santiago with a nice job of blocking it.
Nice play by Benito, and that's one thing a defensive player has to do. You shake off the 0 for 4s, and you also have to shake off the errors. I agree with you. That ball should have been knocked down by Robbie Alomar at second base, and that's something that Davey Johnson, when he was managing the Mets, did a lot of talking with to Greg Jeffries at second base for the New York Mets. They said too many low throws were skipping past Jeffries as he was trying to make the swipe tag when they really didn't have a shot at the runner. And in that case, they had no shot at Yelding. Alomar should have knocked that ball down.
They play the infield in on the right side, deep with the left, and they throw a ball forward to Bill Doran. So 2 on and nobody out, and San Diego starting very poorly. Dennis Rasmussen is making his 11th start of the year, 7th at home and first against the Astros. He's won his last 2 and 4 of his last 5, so he has been on a hot streak. And most importantly, last year he was just disastrous in the first inning. He's improved that figure this year, Dave.
Yeah, 14 out of the first 17 games he pitched a year ago, teams scored runs in the first inning. Then he went 3 for his last 16 and only 2 for 10 this year. That's only 5 times out of the last 26 tries. He started really spotting down in the bullpen prior to the game. He started really trying to pick up the catcher's glove and working to spots.
Greg Biggio, the batter, now swings and misses in the count. No balls and 1 strike. To the catcher for the Houston Astros, and Houston with runners in the corners, nobody out. First inning of play.
Well, this is a key man for Rasmussen right now, because the man behind Glenn Davis has been the hottest hitter in baseball the last 9 days with 9 home runs and 19 runs batted in.
Perfect situation for Houston, and they like to run. Doran has very good speed with 6 stolen bases over at first base. He's not going, and the pitch is missing. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Rasmussen can really lull you to sleep with a very slow move to first base, but he'll throw over there 3 or 4 times, often with a kind of a mediocre move, and the runner thinks he has him read, and then Dennis will give him a little better move and pick you off. So Doran's going to have to be careful of that.
But we have the 2 National League leaders as far as tosses to first base showing tonight in Jim Deshaies and Dennis Rasmussen. He's coming home here, and Biggio is fooled, and it's 1 and 2.
Well, Rasmussen trying to get the ground ball here. He'll trade the double play for an early run, but to really blunt this inning. Yeah, you mentioned we've gotten so deep into statistics now that they keep track of throws to first base. Last year, Jim Deshaies, 355 tosses to first, easily the leader in Major League Baseball.
Doran looks like he wants to go. He has a good read on Rasmussen, but stays put, and there's a snap toss to first base.
Yeah, you mentioned Jack Clark, and we get a shot of him right there. This is Jack's first game back since May the 5th when he hurt his back, and he's got 00 in his back. He changed that day in Chicago to 00. He ended up hurting his back. The next time he appeared on the field was in New York during batting practice on May 25th. He got hit in the face with a throw from the outfield that fractured a cheekbone. I thought maybe he'd switch back to 25, but he still got 00.
According to the stars and the planets, the way they have them aligned, 00 is supposed to be a positive statement. Not so for Jack Clark thus far.
Didn't work for Robert Parrish this year.
It had for several seasons, though. Jeffrey Leonard wears it for the Seattle Mariners. Dorn's going, and the pitch is swung on, missed by Craig Biggio. He strikes out.
Well, Glenn Davis will not get a chance to hit. That just took the bat right out of Davis's hands, because he'll get 4 wide ones because he has been the hottest hitter in baseball.
Batting fourth, first baseman number 27.
That may have been a ball out of the strike zone.
Yeah, it was a one-hop curveball. It's just that Biggio couldn't lay off it, so Dennis fed him nothing but off-speed pitches, and now they're going to walk Glenn Davis. Glenn's trying to get a toehold in the batter's box, but Glenn, when they're going to walk you, might as well just get in there and take the 4.
There's no reason to let him swing. 6 home runs in his last 4 games, and the only problem with that, they've lost all 4 of those games. He had 3 home runs Friday in a game we did on ESPN, and they lost to the San Francisco Giants. He had all 5 RBIs. They lose at 6-5 in 11 innings.
You go back to a week ago Saturday, a doubleheader that the Astros swept at Wrigley Field. Davis broke out of a 2 for 23 at that time with 3 home runs and 9 RBIs in the doubleheader. He was relatively quiet in the 3-game series against St. Louis at home in the Dome, but then he goes into San Francisco and he hits 5 home runs and knocks in 9 runs in 3 days. Homered last night, so that's 9 home runs and 19 RBIs in just 6 games, but the Astros went 2 and 4.
And there are those figures that we were talking about earlier on Dennis Rasmussen. He has improved that dramatically this year. 9 home runs in the first inning last year. Only 1 thus far in 1990, and he's given up 7 total. Ken Caminiti takes strike 1.
Well, again, the thing that they really started to work with Rasmussen on, they were trying everything last year, but finally they said, Dennis, you're just going down and getting loose in the bullpen. You're not really concentrating on throwing to a target. So about the last 7 minutes of his warm-up, they really had the catcher move the glove around and had him try to hit it, and he's had better luck since then.
1 ball, 1 strike, and visiting with pitching coach Pat Dobson earlier tonight, he said, hey, he's not nibbling as much. That used to bother the heck out of me. My attitude is let's throw that ball low, but get the ground ball outs. Don't be worried if they tag it pretty well. Let's make sure they hit it, but hit it on the ground. And Rasmussen has not been nibbling this year. He's been challenging him. Here's the 1-1 pitch, and Caminiti takes strike 2. Inning did not start well for Rasmussen. Yelding reached on an error, stole second base, went to third on the throwing error by Santiago. Bill Doran walked. Biggio then struck out. Glenn Davis was intentionally passed, and now Santiago and Rasmussen and Gary Templeton comes in from the short to have a discussion.
Well, the infielders want to know. I don't know if Santiago got crossed up, but a lot of times the infielders, as we look at the Grand Slam totals from a year ago and this year, the infielders want to know what's coming just as well as the catcher does. I think maybe Benito got crossed up, and Templeton went in to say, hey, which signal is it? First, second, third? We want to know, too.
One ball, 2 strikes. Just does miss. 2 balls and 2 strikes.
Caminiti, a switch hitter. He hits a lot better from the right side where he's batting right now. Career-wise, he's about 60 points better batting right-handed, and a curveball breaking down and in. Tough pitch for Caminiti to lay off, but definitely a ball.
Bases loaded. Only 1 out. Top of the first inning. And Ken Caminiti hits one hard in the alley, but over as Tony Gwynn makes the catch. Tagging is Eric Yelding. The throw goes into second base, and it's 1-0 Houston.
Well, Caminiti delivers on a fastball from Rasmussen. Dennis got it up, and Tony Gwynn makes the smart throw into the cutoff man. He had no shot at the speedy Yelding, and he held the other 2 runners in place.
Well, he has an outstanding arm in right field. He made a play last night and almost took a double away from one of the Houston Astros when it should have been double easily all the way, but Gwynn with that dart of an arm cut him down, and the Houston Astros went down to lose 10-2 last night to the San Diego Padres, their 4th straight loss. Fastball low. Runners now at first and second, 2 outs, and Rasmussen trying to work out of a very difficult jam with only 1 run being allowed. Glenn Wilson has been slumping. His average right now at 227 with 3 home runs and 14 RBIs. that has been the big thorn in the side of the Astros this year. There's a swing and a miss on the outside pitch by Wilson. He likes the ball away, but the hitters 5 and 6 need to protect Glenn Davis, and they haven't done anything.
Well, for the Padres, their task is to keep the ball in the ballpark. They've allowed 59 home runs this year. That's the major league lead, and that's something you don't want to lead in. The Padres have not gone 2 consecutive games this year without allowing a home run.
They almost went a game last night, but Glenn Davis in the 9th inning hit number 16. And you know, you compare how Cincinnati is doing. They're in first place in the National League West by 9 games, and hitting, they're virtually even. But it's been the pitching staff of Cincinnati which has been so dominant.
Well, the Reds started the night with a 2.92 ERA. The Padres 3.96. That's a full run more, and that really reflects in the standings.
Wilson with a swing and a miss, and Rasmussen able to squeak out of a jam by allowing just 1 run. We head to the bottom of the 1st inning with the Astros up by 1. This starting lineup is presented by Sears Die Hard. To lead things off for the San Diego Padres, they'll go with Biff Roberts at third base. Hitting second is Roberto Alomar, then Tony Gwynn. Batting fourth, Joe Carter. And Jack Clark, his first game in over a month, will be starting and hitting in the number 5 spot. Then it's Benito Santiago, Sean Abner, Gary Templeton, and Dennis Rasmussen on the mound.
Looking at the defense for the Houston Astros, Ken Caminetti is at third base. Excellent fielder. Rafael Ramirez, he is not an excellent fielder. He played short. Billy Doran at second and Glenn Davis at first. Glenn Wilson is in left, looking for career assist number 100. He has 99 in his career. Eric Yelding, a man of many positions, is in center. Eric Anthony, the power hitter, in right. Craig Biggio is the catcher, and left-hander Jim Deshaies is on the mound for Houston tonight, looking for his 4th win.
Big guy, 6 feet 4 inches tall, 220 pounds. Like Rasmussen, he's won his last 2 starts. He beat San Francisco last Thursday 5-3, and in 1990, well, he's 3-2. And there's a look at his innings pitched to hits ratio. Not bad. He would like to see a little bit better control, he says, with 26 walks thus far. But Jim Deshaies may be their number 1 stopper, the way Mike Scott has been pitching, Dave.
Well, he does hold a major league record, and that was back in 1986 when he struck out 8 consecutive Dodgers starting off a ball game. Nobody has ever done that, to start off a game. He doesn't have the same kind of stuff he did then. He had shoulder surgery in 1987. He's a little more of a finesser now.
Well, here's the first offering to Biff Roberts, and it is strike 1. Roberts this year is hitting very well at .313, 4 home runs, 15 RBIs, and last night Biff went 3 for 5. He has a 12-game hit streak going. Again, that high fastball staying up there, and there are scouts who say, I have no idea how he has the kind of success he does throwing that high fastball that does not get up in the 90s. Roberts with a drive to center field. Yelding with plenty of speed gets there. 1 out. Now let's check out what's happening in the National League with John Saunders and ESPN.
Quickly around the league, the Expos and Mets tied at 5 in the 10th. McReynolds with a 2-run home run tied that game up. Milt Thompson with a bases-loaded triple as St. Louis leads the Phillies 5-3 right now. Gary Reedus with a groundout knocked in the game-winning run as Pittsburgh beat Chicago 6-5. The Braves and the Dodgers scoreless, as are Cincinnati and San Francisco. We'll check the American League in a moment.
And Cincinnati started tonight with a 9-game lead on second place San Diego. We've got Jim Deshaies right now going against San Diego's Roberto Alomar, one of the finest second basemen in all of Major League Baseball, and he's only 22 years old. Here's the 0-1 pitch to him. Inside, 1 ball, 1 strike. That is one thing that Deshaies is not afraid of, coming inside. You look at how many people he's hit this year, and you don't maybe want to talk about that. Those are Alomar's numbers this year, .330 average. He's in the top 10. But he has hit 4 guys this year, and Dennis Rasmussen has not hit any, and he has been criticized in his past of not pitching inside.
Well, I think left-handers who come inside and really saw the bats off are some of the more effective pitchers in baseball right now.
He strikes out Roberto Alomar right here, and there's 2 down. Let's check out the American League scores now with John.
Tigers over Cleveland. Alan Trammell 2 for 3, knocking in 2 runs. Tony Fernandez 3 for 5 with 3 runs batted in. The Jays beat Minnesota. Chicago, a loser to Seattle. Jay Buhner with a 3-run double in that game. California and Kansas City. Chili Davis with a 2-run home run. B.J. Surhoff was a home run for Milwaukee, and Mark McGwire has 2. Back to Stephen Day.
And we have Tony Gwynn coming to the plate. Houston leading 1-0 as we're in the bottom of the first inning of play with 2 outs. And Jim Deshaies to Tony Gwynn stays low. You were talking about left-handers pitching inside. Why is it that they'll knock the bats out of your hand?
Well, because most of the time left-handers fastballs tail away, so the right-handed batters go out and try to drive that ball to right center field, and all of a sudden the sharp slider comes in on the hands or a good cut fastball, and it just eats them alive.
Deshaies has had a great deal of success. I remember Dave Dravecky didn't throw that hard, but he broke more bats than anybody in National League one year. Another statistic that was kept. How many broken bats by a left-handed starter?
I remember Larry Bowa when he was playing with the Chicago Cubs. One time came in here and he broke 4 at-bats in 1 at-bat against Dravecky when he was pitching with the Padres. Boy, Bowa was so frustrated. He still doesn't like to talk about it to this day. 3 foul balls, and he finally grounded out to third on his 4th bat.
3 balls, 1 strike to Tony Gwynn. He has been on fire lately. 2 hits yesterday. He drops one into left field, but it will be the 3rd out of the inning. Taken care of by Glenn Wilson. 1-2-3 inning for Jim Deshaies. We head to the 2nd with the Astros leading 1-0. Here's the Sears Die-Hard starting lineups for the Houston Astros. They'll lead things off with their center fielder Eric Yelding. Batting second is Bill Doran. Then it's Crick Biggio, the catcher. Hitting fourth, Glenn Davis, hottest hitter in baseball. Then it's Ken Caminiti, Glenn Wilson, and Eric Anthony. Hitting eighth is Rafael Ramirez, and then Jim Deshaies.
Checking the defense quickly. Biff Roberts at third, Gary Templeton at short, Roberto Alomar at second, and Jack Clark at first. Sean Abner, Joe Carter, and Tony Gwynn in the outfield. Benito Santiago catching, and Dennis Rasmussen in search of victory number 6 this year on the hill.
And to lead off the 2nd is Eric Anthony, and Dennis Rasmussen throws him a fastball that misses the outside corner of the plate. Ball 1. Anthony, Ramirez, and Deshaies here in the 2nd. Anthony, one of the most highly touted prospects this year, has tremendous power, and he fouls one off here. It's 1 ball and 1 strike. He has 4 home runs and 8 RBIs this year, but he hit one in May that they're talking about still in Houston, into the upper deck in right field in Houston. If you've ever been to the Astros, I mean, that is a shot well past 440 feet.
First Astro to hit one into the upper deck in right field ever. Bernie Carbo of Cincinnati did it. 4 guys have hit it in the upper deck in left field. Doug Rader, Greg Luzinski, Bob Bailey, and Jimmy Wynn. Andre Dawson also, so that's 5. So there's 7 altogether. My math wasn't too good.
Here's the 1-2 pitch. Fastball, base hit right field. So Anthony is on, and he was held back a little bit the last week of May and also the first week of June because of injuries to his legs, but he has very good speed.
Well, we heard a few hoops and hollers down below us. Eric Anthony hails from San Diego, although he did move to Houston for his senior year in high school, but I think Eric's got a few passes here tonight.
Here's Rafael Ramirez. 1 for 3 last night. There's only 4 hits in his last 29 at bats, so he has been slumping. Astros leading 1-0 as we're in the 2nd inning of play. And once again, you will see Rasmussen go quite often to first base.
The only thing that will keep Jim Deshaies from going often to first base is not have anybody on first base. He got through the side in order in the 1st inning.
And Rasmussen has struggled from the very outset. He had the bases loaded, only 1 out in the 1st, and was able to squeak out with just 1 run scoring, so that helped him. There's Mount Galante over at third base.
Rafael has been slumping, as Steve told you. He is a .360 lifetime hitter, though, against Dennis Rasmussen, so he's probably looking forward to this assignment tonight. Maybe he can bust loose.
Anthony a short lead at first.
Jim Deshaies on deck is a terrible hitting pitcher, so I think Rafael wants to get on base to let Deshaies hit. Deshaies is 0 for 18 this year with 13 strikeouts.
Anthony not going. Pitch stays high. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Yeah, the value of putting the hit and run on here is diminished somewhat by Deshaies' inability to do much with a bat. Even if you get the guy to first and third, you're probably going to still have Deshaies try to bunt Ramirez down to second base. So I don't look for the Astros to put a hit and run on. We'll see, though.
1 ball, 1 strike. Goes to right field, but it's fouled. 1 ball and 2 strikes. And you know, look at Rafael. he's looking pretty good. He's slimmed down from years past when he was at the Atlanta Braves and was up to about 215 pounds for a shortstop. He was only 5'11". There's Art Howe, the skipper of the Houston Astros.
Well, for years, everybody said the reason Rafael Ramirez led the league in errors was because of the bad infield in Atlanta. Very tough infield to play on, but when he came over to Houston, he's led the league in errors a couple of times on the AstroTurf.
And another 30-error season in 1989.
Yeah, Rafi needs to lead the league one more time to become the undisputed record holder. He shares it with Dick Groat, the former Pirate shortstop, for leading the league in errors 6 different times in his career.
Anthony has 4 stolen bases this year. Has yet to be caught. He's not going, and there's a ground ball, third baseman. Biff Roberts gets the force and gets the double. No, they don't. Ramirez able to beat it out.
Padres did everything right, but 2 things happened. Rafael Ramirez was leaning a little bit towards first base, and Steve, you mentioned taking the weight off. That's probably given him about an additional half step, and that's what he makes it by. So Padres really executed, but you see Rafi on his way to first base. Biff Roberts gives Alomar a good throw, and Robbie makes a fine pivot, a strong throw, but first baseman umpire Paul Runge says safe when it looked on the replay like maybe out. That angle, he looks safe.
It's a runner on first base, and here's Jim Deshaies. He's in a bunting situation. Dave chronicled his difficulties this year.
Now notice the difference when we see Will Clark with that great determination on his face when he comes to the plate. Look at Deshaies going, God, I hope I get the bunt sign so I can get it down and get out of here.
I mean, Clark has that look on his face like, Mr. Pitcher, you got problems you're facing. Will Clark. Jim Deshaies' look on the face. Boy, how am I going to get that bunt down?
Boy, that guy's 6'7" out there. He looks like he's coming right around by first base. God, I hope I can lay a bunt down here.
A look of concern.
I'll tell you what, it's not real easy to bunt a guy if you're a left-handed batter like Rasmussen, all arms and legs and 6'7".
Here's the 2-0 count. Inside corner, 2-1.
This is where you really have to lay down a good bunt. Biff Roberts is quick at third. Santiago very quick at coming out from behind the plate. If you can make Clark or Rasmussen field the ball, you have a pretty good chance of getting the sacrifice successfully, because Jack's got a long run, and Rasmussen not a real smooth fielding pitcher because of a childhood injury he had to his ankle.
Runner going, and out at second base is Rafael Ramirez. Nice throw from Benito Santiago.
Well, it's very apparent tonight that manager Art Howe, who has seen his team lose 4 games in a row, is trying to get very aggressive. I think maybe they had bunt and run on there, and Deshaies did not even offer at the ball. And second base umpire Mike Winters says out you go. So Benito Santiago 1 for 3 tonight on stolen base attempts.
And striking out is Jim Deshaies. So we'll head to the bottom of the second inning with Houston and Deshaies right now leading 1-0 over San Diego.
Don't miss the action in San Diego Jack Murphy Stadium as a Padres fan.
Hello, I'm John Saunders. If it happens in baseball, you'll see it here on ESPN. Except for Sunday night games, Major League Baseball usually requires us to show you an alternate game when your home team is featured in ESPN's national coverage. You won't see your home team play that night on ESPN, but you will see an exciting game. Sure to be a key matchup, so tune in Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Sundays. ESPN in your cable system. Cover the national pastime full-time.
Steve Physiak and Dave Campbell in San Diego, California, where the Astros lead the Padres 1-0. And San Diego came into tonight's game with a record of 26-24, second place, 9 games back of Cincinnati. But when you look at the offensive situations, they're very even. It's the pitching that has deprived San Diego thus far, Dave.
Well, obviously the Padres are leading the Reds in runs scored, but pitching, keeping the ball in the ballpark. Padres had trouble with a gopher ball a year ago. We mentioned they gave up 133, and this ballpark yielded 148, most in the National League. I don't know why they keep calling Atlanta the launching pad and Wrigley Field the home run haven. This ballpark because of no wind, the fact that the fences are very fair distance and low fences, the ball just sails out of here, particularly on warm evenings as it is tonight.
Started this evening at 75 degrees, slight breeze from the southwest at 3 miles an hour. And there's the brain trust of the Houston Astros. And they'll send Jim Deshaies to work. He'll face Joe Carter, Jack Clark, and Benito Santiago here in the second.
Well, you got to feel for the Atlanta Braves a little bit. They go out and try to really bolster their ball club this year, picking up veteran Ernie Witt, getting Nick Ozaski. Witt just went on the disabled list with a bad thumb. Ozaski's been transferred to the 60-day disabled list by that mysterious vertigo that he's suffering from. And the great young pitching Atlanta expected to have really has not materialized. And Bobby Cox, a very solid baseball man down in Atlanta, along with Russ Nixon. I mean, doesn't matter what they seem to do, nothing's going right for him right now.
Here's the 1-0 pitch to Joe Carter. And he hits one high in the air in left center field. Eric Yelding is called up by Glenn Wilson and makes the catch. Interesting story. Glenn Wilson always plays right field and is an outstanding right fielder. He's one of the best arms in baseball. But he's been shifted to left because Anthony, the freshman, feels so much more comfortable in right than he does in left.
Well, I don't think it's any doubt Glenn Wilson has been shifted from a few clubs recently. He started out with Detroit, went to the Phillies, Pittsburgh, and Houston. Glenn's really going to have to put together some numbers to stick around the big leagues for a while. He's kind of the extra man, odd man out right now.
San Diego activated Jack Clark yesterday, and this is his first plate appearance since May 5th when he got hurt. Been out with a back injury. Also was hit in the cheek, broke his cheek late in May on a toss from Pat Clements in batting practice. Outside corner to Jack, 1 ball and 1 strike.
Well, there was talk that they were going to construct a special face mask for Jack to hit with, but obviously he's just using the normal flap on the helmet right now. He had the surgery on the cheek about 2 weeks ago.
Outside corner, 1 ball, 2 strikes. Deshaies going right after Jack Clark, and talking with Jack McKeon, and I asked him, I said, did you want to get him back in there? First of all, because he's got a great back, but he's one guy who puts fear in the other pitcher's lineup. He says, absolutely. He is one guy who does scare other teams' pitching staffs. And here is a fly ball to left field, towered in the air down the foul line. And no one will get there. Ken Caminiti, Glenn Wilson, and Rafael Ramirez all searching for it. It was hit a mile high, and they had to pull it out of the twilight.
Well, when the ball goes above the lights here in San Diego Jack Murphy Stadium, that ball was really up in the air. It's still not quite totally dark here, and you see those guys kind of looking at each other. Where is it? Where is it? That ball really has to be caught under normal conditions. It was in the air way too long, but all 3 of them looked at each other. I don't think any of them had a real good read on the ball. Another 5 to 10 minutes, it'll be totally dark here.
Deshaies last year 15 and 10. Here's the 1-2 to Jack Clark. Off-speed pitch struck him out. That's a second strikeout for Deshaies in the game.
That's not a bad at bat, though, for Jack Clark. He looked at 3 pitches. That's not a bad idea. You've been off for a month, came back, got very good wood on that high foul ball, and then got fooled on the changeup. But, you know, not a bad idea. Some hitters, when they get back in the lineup, the younger guys, well, they want to hit the first pitch they see. And Clark was just measuring Deshaies a little bit, getting a read on him for later at bats in the ball game.
That takes us to the catcher, Benito Santiago. Benito last night went 1 for 3. They walked Joe Carter to get to Benito to load the bases, and he promptly slapped one into left field for a base hit that scored 2.
Well, you think the Padres had a catching tandem here with Benito and Sandy Alomar Jr. laying in the wings. Alomar leading the American League All-Star ballot in catchers, sitting over 500 with men in scoring position with 2 outs is Sandy Alomar Jr.
Right field. That's the first base hit off Jim Deshaies in this game.
Well, Santiago now 9 for his last 22, well over 400. So Benito just one of several Padre hitters that's very hot with the bat.
Left fielder, number 28, Sean Abner.
Benito just kind of fights this one inside out. Draws the arms in and pushes it off to right center field. And Eric Anthony comes in and plays it on the big hop. And then Santiago aboard at first with 2 down, and Abner steps in.
#1 draft choice in the nation way back in 1984, was it?
84. You think about Sean Abner. They keep saying it waited for the kid to develop, and now he may be a part-time player. He's still only 23 years old, and I'm telling you, this kid has got some excellent tools. I think he has to go somewhere where he can play every day.
He played for 1 out last night. It was a breaking ball in the outside corner for strike 1. He came in as a defensive replacement in left field, makes a fantastic catch, and then they pull a double switch and take Abner out. I mean, he made a tremendous catch.
I told Sean that Jack McKeon was saving him for tonight so he could get in the starting lineup. Didn't want to wear him out last night.
And he said, yeah, right.
Sean's got a good sense of humor. He's really a talented player. He's an excellent defensive outfielder, good fly hawk, good arm. Question is the bat. Well, Deshays with his first throw over the night. He averages 14 a game, but he finally got a man to first base and tossed over there. I don't know. I'm trying to think of a club that Abner might be able to go to. I mean, he's hit 300 in AAA. He doesn't really have anything to prove down there.
Up high, and they have a talented group of young outfielders. Gerald Clark, Darren Jackson. They have a couple of people that could start for a lot of clubs. As we take a look at the baseball commissioner, Fay Vincent, and also Steve Greenberg, his assistant. And Steve, of course, the son of one of the great Hall of Famers, Hank Greenberg.
As Steve's doing his bit, he's eating peanuts at the ballpark. That's what you're supposed to do. 2 throws for Deshays the first. I'm going to keep track of that.
You do that. See if he has 355 by the end of the game. That's what he had all last year.
Well, Roger Clemens of the Red Sox was number 2 at 297. So
I didn't think he had that many base runners.
amazing thing about Deshays is he led in throwing over to first base, but base runners still had a better stolen base ratio against him than the major league average, which is .74 stolen bases per game. They were .84 off Deshays. Good changeup though from Jim, and Abner way out in front.
1 ball, 2 strikes, 2 outs. Runner at first base and Benito Santiago. 1-0 score. Houston has the lead. They did that in the first inning when Ken Caminiti hit a fly ball to right field, scoring Eric Yelding from third base. Runner going. Pitch is hit in the air, popped up, but it will be out of play.
Santiago either had Deshays read or guessed right, because the catcher Craig Biggio had absolutely no chance. Santiago had about 4 steps to second base before Deshays even got the ball halfway to the plate. You're looking at Deshays, and you mentioned about Mike Scott. Last year, when Deshays and Scott started ball games, the Astros went 45-22. Other pitchers started, the team went 41-54. So that's what Deshays and Scott meant to the Astros a year ago. Those 2 guys, when they pitched, the Astros were 23 games above 500.
Santiago again going ground ball Ramirez, but this will end the inning as the play goes 6-3, and Houston still leading 1-0 over the San Diego Padres as we head to inning number 3.
It's time to solve today's.
Third inning we go. Houston has a 1-0 lead on San Diego, and this copyright telecast is presented by authority of Major League Baseball and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball.
Yeah, and we did talk to the commissioner before the game tonight, and he said make sure you read that, and we did.
You know, it was your turn too.
Yeah, I know it. Well, next time.
Up in Seattle, huh? No, in Oakland.